poison its own people with agents of biowarfare. But is human experimentation actually being carried out on Plum Island?
You have a base designed by a Nazi, studying the effects of biological agents on animals and humans. Makes you wonder if humans themselves are being tested on Plum Island. What if the next Montauk monster is a human?
In January 2010, some say he was.
A 6-foot-tall African-American male washed up on the shores of Plum Island. He was found by security guards, and it's said that he wasn't entirely human-like in appearance. He had these abnormally large fingers.
To date, the case remains unsolved. But one detail in particular causes alarm. The victim was reported to have 5 holes drilled into his head, a potential sign of invasive brain surgery or experimentation.
Why would the government experiment on human beings? Why would they take these biological agents and use them on unwilling human subjects? I think the answer might be that we have to see the effects of these biological agents before we implement them in war.
If humans are being subjected to biological tests in this lab, how can it be kept secret? Unless they're not working alone. Unsealed case file. Biohazard outbreak. A 2007 study reported that 113 laboratories throughout the U.S. with bioweapon capabilities refused to disclose their operations to the public. This secrecy, a violation of the Geneva Convention, would normally not be allowed by federal law. But reports indicate amnesty was granted by President George W. Bush.
Members of Congress and fellow Americans.
It seems that the answer is pretty clear, that the United States government is funding these programs, testing biological agents. Whether they're testing them on animals or humans doesn't really matter. They're funding the research. Now, if you have more than 100 facilities that don't want to disclose what they're doing, you have to ask yourself, what is going on that we just don't know about?
Syphilis in Alabama, yellow fever in Florida, Lyme disease in Connecticut, hantavirus in New Mexico, even bubonic plague. With disease labs spread across the country, experimentation is just one of the possible threats. A simple mistake could be the beginning of an epidemic that would devour us all. May 2012. 24-year-old Amy Copeland is hospitalized after injuring herself while ziplining over a river outside Atlanta, Georgia. What seems like a routine surgery quickly reveals a bacteria not only infecting her body, but killing it as it spreads quickly through her flesh.
Once this infection has taken hold, it's moving so progressively that the antibiotics cannot get ahead of the infection.
The flesh-eating virus is, as its name implies, extraordinarily deadly because it eats a human being from the inside out.
Then, within the same year, this relatively unheard of affliction suddenly appears again and again in the Atlanta area, followed by 2 more in South Carolina. And when we look at these 5 known cases of the outbreak on a map, a startling revelation is made.
When you've got a certain region that now starts to have not 1, not 2, but you start getting into 4 or 5 and maybe even an outbreak of cases, then add in the fact that there's a CDC facility not too far away, you have to ask, is there a connection?
The CDC is in charge of infectious disease prevention and awareness in America, perhaps the most advanced institute of its kind. But shortly after the outbreak of flesh-eating bacteria, the government announces a congressional investigation of reported air leaks and safety lapses that occurred in February of 2012, just 3 months before Amy Copeland's accident.
The CDC liked to conduct tours. There was a reverse of an airport. And so the CDC admitted that a virus that was being tested might have escaped into a corridor where a tour was taking place.
Was this bacteria created as a weapon and released by accident? If not, then why has the recent government decision to move Plum Island resulted in a new location further from the population centers of the East Coast, but a location closer to the rest of us? Coming up next, what government plan for Plum Island could create the biggest biological threat in American history? And how could it bring disease right into your very home? Join us when we return.